Hello and welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Mentzel.
Alrighty, we got some sports updates for you guys. So starting off with football as usual. This past Saturday they played at UND, and won 16-10. Again, my predictions were wrong.
Mine was too. We both predicted a little bit more offense than what was shown in that game. I mean, that's just a credit to how well both of the defenses played in this game.
Finally, your prediction was wrong because it seemed like your prediction was getting right every how many did you get right? Like 2
Well, I got the Towson game perfectly, and I was feeling like maybe I can get 2 in a row, but nope, it was just not to be.
Okay, so to start the game, we started out pretty slow. The players said the stadium was so loud they couldn't hear anything, and plus the fans were right behind their bench, talking trash to them the whole game. So the atmosphere was already crazy. So that's why I think they were playing slow in the beginning because they're not at home and that atmosphere is kind of hard to play good.
Well, you knew UND was going to be hyped for this game. It's the first time the NDSU has came to their stadium since 2003. You knew they were going to be there. It was a top 10 matchup, and they're not a bad team by any means. They have a good fan base up there, and they definitely came to see that game.
Yep, and through all that, they never gave up. So Coach Entz said the offense could have been more efficient. We would have some good plays, but we just couldn't punch it in. So that's one thing we couldn't do. So for the first, second, and third quarter, we scored 3 field goals. And talk about pressure. The kicker, Jake Reinholz, it's the little things that helps you win games. If we didn't get those field goals, we could potentially have lost. But it's the little things, like pressure. Like, how did you feel he was feeling during that moment? Each field goal, probably.
I mean, especially the first one. The first one's that 45-yarder, which was the longest in his career. It's his new career long. He also had that extra point at the end of the game that put us up by 9 to put the game out of reach pretty much by 2 scores. Yes, and you're right. It's the little things. You think about offense, you got to score touchdowns. You got to get that. No, sometimes you just got to kick the field goals. I remember one of them. I think it was the one before halftime. Coach Entz actually called the timeout because we were considering maybe going for it on 4th down instead of kicking a field goal. But, in games like this where every point matters, you got to take the field goals sometimes. And that's what we did, and that's what helped us win this game.
Yeah, and by that, I know he got his respect from his teammates. And he was named Missouri Valley Football Conference Special Teams Player of the Week, which is well-deserved. It's the second time getting that in his career. And then we got scored on in the first quarter, too. It seemed like miscommunication with the defense. So
what it actually was, it was a really good trick play by UND. What they did was they lined up, and then everybody on UND's offense looked at their sideline like they were getting a new cadence or a new play call to them. So at the same time, we looked at our sideline as well, thinking, okay, they're not going to run a play yet. We got to look at our sideline and see what they're doing. And the quarterback, as soon as he saw everybody was looking on the defense to the sideline, quickly hiked the ball, and one of the receivers just ran a fly down the field, and we were not ready for it.
Yep.
So that was just a great trick play on their part.
Yeah, he ran right by a corner, Courtney Eubanks. It just seems like the miscommunication with our defense, and like you said, the trick play or whatever. So, and then late in the fourth quarter, we had a big stop. The team got hyped. That stop really helped us because if they would have got that, we potentially could have lost.
Turnovers definitely hype your team more than anything, especially when you're in a close game like that. And UND was driving to take the lead. It was a 3rd down at about the 30. So, it's like they get a touchdown here, they take the lead. They got all momentum going their way. And then it was just a rare mistake by Tommy Schuster to throw that ball when he was under pressure and really to nobody. And Dawson Weber was just in the right place at the right time, gets that pick, and all momentum was for NDSU the rest of the way.
Yep. So with that big stop, we had good field position that allowed us to pound the ball. Hunter Lukey showed how much of a dog he really was in those last minutes of the game. They just kept giving the ball, feeding him, and he just kept taking it. I think it took one of the runs, 3 defenders had to take him down. He's a truck.
We hadn't seen much Lukey in this game. I mean, the running game had really struggled a lot in this game, which was not good because the passing game had struggled as well for most of that game. But the thing was, on that last drive, we were pinned back, back towards our own 20, and we needed to get a good long drive to put this game out of reach. We just kept consistently running it to Lukey, and it finally worked. The offensive line finally started getting some good blocks for the runs, and he gouged their linebackers, and it was great to see at the end of the game. It was the perfect drive to end the game.
Yep, so he helped us get us to the goal line, and Quincy scored the 3-yard touchdown late with 1 minute and 13 seconds on the clock. What were some of the stats from this game?
So our top rushers for the game, Quincy Patterson was actually the top rusher with 19 rushes for 92 yards and the only team's TD. And that was really a testament to the offensive play calling. There were a lot of read options in this game that were called, which kind of surprised me, especially with how good UND's linebackers are. But eventually, towards the end of the game, sometimes they worked, and that's why Quincy got so many yards. Hunter Lukey had 9 rushes for 51 yards. Again, a testament to how good he did on that last drive. A lot of that came from the last drive. And then Dom Ganella had 7 rushes for 37 yards. Now, the other stats for the offense were the passing stats. And once again, sadly, not too impressive, unfortunately. We only completed the ball 5 times, and 4 of those were to Noah Gindorf with 58 yards for him. And the other completion was to Raja Nelson, and he lost a yard on that reception. Quincy Patterson got 4 of those completions. And then Cam Miller had to actually come in for a play because Quincy lost his helmet, and Miller got 1 pass completed to Gindorf for 9 yards.
So overall,
how did the defense do then?
Back to offense though.
Oh, okay.
The overall we had 57 yards passing, and then on the ground we had a total of 253 yards. And back to the passing you were talking about. You know, in the press conference, I noticed he said we only going to pass when we need to, and I think that's, you know, okay in the situation because they have 4 good running backs. So I'm guessing, you know, their main objective is to run the ball first. And then if they see an opening or if they see a little, you know, chink in the armor of the defense, then they're going to attack that.
Which is fair, absolutely. You know, you see the games like Albany, Valpo, where we just ran the ball over the teams and didn't even need to pass it to get yards. Yep. That is definitely fair. But in a game like this, where the game was so tight and UND was definitely reading a lot of our runs, we were getting hit in the backfield a bunch. You know, in games like this, it would be better for the offense to be able to get more passes going, and in games down the road, because I can guarantee you every team in the Missouri Valley Conference is going to be watching our film, watching the runs, and they're going to be zoning in on those, kind of like how UND was with their linebackers. And when teams zone in on the run, it forces you to pass. And if you're not prepared to pass, that is a big problem for your offense.
Well, think about it on this perspective. You know, UND passed, and what happened? We got the pick. So that's probably the little things that he's maybe thinking about in the back of his head. Mm-hmm. But on defense, Michael Tutsi had the most tackles for that game with 8. Jackson Hankey had 7. Dawson Weber had 1 interception, you know, that late in the fourth quarter that gave us the momentum to score.
That Weber interception was the big turning point in the game. And like we had already said, UND was driving to take the lead. Yep. It was a 3rd down at about the 30, and Weber gets that interception, and it was just full speed ahead for NDSU the rest of the way.
Yep. So we are now 4-0. Their next game is against Northern Iowa at home at the Fargo Dome, and it's also for homecoming. UNI is 3-1. You know, last season it was a close game. We won 23-20 at their house. You know, we're on a 7-game winning streak against them, so that's pretty good. Last time they beat us was in 2014. This will be Northern Iowa's 4th appearance at NDSU's homecoming also. So far in their season, they played Iowa State, Sacramento State, St. Thomas, and Youngstown State. Their only competition to me they only played was Iowa State, and they had a close game with them. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't mean, you know, they're bad. You know, that it could be a force to be reckoned with.
No, UNI is not a team to take lightly, and especially on that defensive side, they have only allowed 33 points throughout those first 4 games, and even the offense, they've got consistent stats on offense. Theo Day has got 501 passing yards so far this season with 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Will McElvain, who actually was starting last spring, and he also started in the Iowa State game and had 237 yards in that game. But Theo Day has taken over the starting snaps since. So they got 2 quarterbacks who can take starting snaps and who can play at a high level. They also have 2 pretty good running backs in Dom Williams, who has rushed for 332 yards so far this season. And they also have a transfer from 2 FBS schools in Wisconsin and Cal, Bradrick Shaw, who has also got 122 yards. So they got a pretty consistent backfield as well. And they got 2 receivers who have been racking up the stats on their offense. Isaiah Weston, he's got 234 yards receiving. And then Quan Hampton has got 219. So that is the one thing about their offense that is very positive. They are very consistent in the run and the pass. And that's why they've got so many points. They had 34 against Sacramento, they had 44 against St. Thomas, and 34 against Youngstown State. So they are racking up the yards on offense. But their defense is really what has gelled this team together in all their games.
Yep, and then they also got some good defensive players like Benny Sapp and Omar Brown. The safety, Benny Sapp, and in the corner, Omar Brown. They led last season. They led in their team with tackles and was up there in interceptions. So I think it's going to be a battle. Good thing we're at home. You know, we're in a better atmosphere. I'm predicting 21-14 us.
Yeah, I'm predicting it'll be a tight defensive struggle in the first half. It's going to look a lot like how the UND game did last week. Tight defensive struggle. I'm not even sure if either team's going to score more than 10 points in the first half. But then I feel like NDSU, I think their offense will start to figure some things out in that defense. They'll be able to run the ball a little bit better in the second half. I believe the final score will be 24-10. NDSU wins.
You know, fun fact, Benny Sapp went to my high school. You know, he was initially at the University of Minnesota, then transferred to UNI late last season. But besides.
So they're getting a lot of FBS transfers over there, because I had already mentioned Bradrick Shaw, who got a lot of quality starting snaps at Wisconsin. I remember watching him there because I'm a huge Badgers fan as well.
Yep, so you're so the game is going to be crazy tomorrow. We definitely got to tune in. We're definitely going to be there.
The homecoming atmosphere is
going
to make it so much fun.
I can't wait for the homecoming performances, all that, because this will be my first time because last year because of COVID and whatnot. But yeah, we got to tune into those games. So when we come back, we'll get into soccer and volleyball. Don't go away.
There are so many great things to experience at NDSU. It's hard to pick one, but my favorite is
the people. They make it such a warm place. The Bison aren't just across the country, they're across the globe.
It's the perfect distance from home. The faculty are our biggest cheerleaders. Hands-on research experience. The affordable tuition.
All the opportunities to stay active on campus.
Real-world learning experiences.
Once I got on campus, it felt like home.
The NDSU bookstore has everything you need to show off your Bison pride. The bookstore can have you sporting green and gold wherever you go. It offers many different brands, sizes, styles, and selection so that you find exactly what you're looking for. Shop the NDSU bookstore and show your spirit today.
No kid deserves to go hungry, but try as they might, not every family can afford to put food on the table every day. That's why the Great Plains Food Bank and their partner agencies work every day to bring food to our hungry neighbors. Every dollar donated can provide 4 meals for those in need. Go to greatplainsfoodbank.org and donate today so no kid in North Dakota ever has to go hungry.
there are so many great things to experience at NDSU. It's hard to pick one, but my favorite is
the people. They make it such a warm place. The Bison aren't just across the country, they're across the globe.
It's the perfect distance from home. The faculty are our biggest cheerleaders. Hands-on research experience. The affordable tuition.
All the opportunities to stay active on campus.
Real-world learning experiences.
Once I got on campus, it felt like home.
Welcome back. Now we're going to get into soccer and volleyball. So starting with soccer, this previous Friday they played Oral Roberts at the Dakota Field. They finally won. Finally, and scored some goals too. The final score was 3-2.
They had scored more goals in that game than they had scored all season up to that point, and that was great to see.
Yeah, Olivia Lovick scored twice, less than 2 minutes, and Jess Hanley also scored in the first half. You know, Olivia Lovick scored in the 17th minute after a great run. So Alicia crossed it into the middle of Oral Roberts' defense, and she shot that in. So it was a pretty good play there. So that's what we were looking for, right? Because we kept saying that they couldn't, capitalize and actually get shots on target. So now they're taking more shots.
Yeah, and then in the second half, Oral Roberts, it was 3-1 at halftime, so you're feeling pretty good. But then in the second half, Oral Roberts actually got a goal pretty early in the second half in the 68th minute with a penalty kick. And then, but thankfully, we were able to hold them after that. No more scores were made, and we won 3-2. Goalkeeper Howe finished with 4 saves, and statistically, the Bison held the edge in shots in 15-14.
Yeah, and then that was Olivia Lovick's and Jess Hanley's first goal of the season too. So it was good to see that.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday they fell short to Kansas City though. They lost 1-0. That was also at home at the Dakota Field. It was a battle. It was pretty physical. We were there. It was we saw a lot of people falling over and stuff like that. I think 2 people got hurt.
There's so many penalties though too in this game.
Yeah, it was 20 total fouls. 20. That's a lot. So no team scored in the first half. both teams had 5 shots and 2 corner kicks, and then in the second half, Kansas City scored in the 60th minute. It was just a dagger. It was a cross in the middle, and someone got the header. So the Bison finished with 7 shots at the end of the game, and Kansas City only had 5 in the second. So we were taking the shots. We were just unlucky, I guess.
It's just a broken record at this point. Missing our opportunities on shots on the goal, and sadly, after the Oral Roberts game, you thought maybe we finally fixed it and we got a little bit easier of an opponent in terms of record against Kansas City. But unfortunately, yeah, it just came back to rear its ugly head again. The fact that we just can't capitalize on these shots.
Yeah, so we are now 1-7-1. Their next match is against rival school UND this Sunday at the Dakota Field again at 1 p.m. This is their 18th time playing each other. Last season we split 2 games with them. UND is 3-6-1. So they've also played Oral Roberts and Kansas City. So what is your predictions?
My prediction is that the NDSU goaltending is going to be very good again because Howe's been doing a great job back there tending the goal most games. But unfortunately, I do feel like our lack of scoring is going to come back to bite us again, and I feel like it's going to be kind of like the Kansas City game. So I feel like UND will win this game 1-0.
I think it's going to be a close game. I'm thinking 1-1 because they play the same team as we team, and they both lost. It's not like they're doing anything that we're not doing, or they beat teams that we haven't beat or played. So I'm thinking it's going to be a close game. Plus, it's rival school. We got to beat UND.
Oh, yeah.
We got to beat UND. But
my prediction is just not about what they're doing. It's about what we need to do. And what we need to do is capitalize on those shots.
Yep.
It's not a defensive issue. It's just an offensive issue right now. And, and we saw the potential this offense has against Oral Roberts. They have the potential to score plenty of goals and capitalize on those shots. They just need to capitalize.
So you think it's more of our problem rather than the UND's force?
Yes, I feel like we can beat most teams that we're playing here, especially with the goaltending we have. It's just, we need to score some goals. That's just as simple as that.
And this previous weekend, also, the one thing that we did do good on was possession. We were able to get the ball and create our own plays instead of just have to play defense more than half the game. So I think the girls are improving. I think the Kansas City was just an unlucky fail because we had more shots on them, and that's what we were complaining about last episode that's what they were supposed to do in order to win the game, and they were doing that. So I think UND, I think we could be able to get those shots back on, and I think we're gonna either 1-1. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, I definitely hope they can prove me wrong.
Alrighty, when we come back, we'll get into men's and women's golf.
Founded in 1985, the Missouri Valley Football Conference has established a tradition of FCS football excellence. Competing at the highest level of NCAA Division I, student athletes at its 10 institutions demonstrate character, passion, and integrity as they grow as a student, an athlete, and a citizen. The Missouri Valley Football Conference, where leaders are shaped and champions are forged.
No kid deserves to go hungry, but try as they might, not every family can afford to put food on the table every day. That's why the Great Plains Food Bank and their partner agencies work every day to bring food to our hungry neighbors. Every dollar donated can provide 4 meals for those in need. Go to greatplainsfoodbank.org and donate today so no kid in North Dakota ever has to go hungry.
Thank you for coming back. Before the break, we skipped one sport, and that's volleyball. So volleyball played on this previous Saturday. They played St. Thomas and swept them 3-0. I had a feeling this was going to happen because they're in a different conference, and it's a different level for St. Thomas. So I knew we were going to get that sweep, and that's why I predicted. I finally got a prediction right. Not for football, but I finally got it for volleyball. What was the stats from those games?
So the stats from those games, kill stats leaders for NDSU, Allie Hinsey had the most with 13, Sierra Tanchin had the second most with 9, and then Michelle Glover had the third most with 8. So a decent game in the kill stat category. I mean, we definitely have had more, but granted, that's also because we've played 3 games. So over 3 games, that is a pretty good stat, and it's good to see us sweep someone.
Yeah, and then on Thursday they played Denver and lost 3-0. They also got swept. Defensive specialist Kaylee Hanger reached her 1,000 career digs. So at least good news for that. But what was the stats for those games?
So the kill stats for the Denver game, Sierra Tanchin had the most with 9, Allie Hinsey had the second most with 8, and then Allison Schweiwiller had the third most with 6. And the interesting thing about that game, too, is I looked at Denver. Each of their top 3 players had the most kills with 8. So you could tell that Denver was evenly distributing those kills to everybody on their team.
Yeah, so that team is now 8-10. They play Omaha tomorrow, 11 at home. Omaha is 8-7. So this will be also their 93rd meeting in the series that dates back all the way back to 1978. And Omaha is leading 50-42. So last season we fell short 3-2. So I think this is going to be a tough game. They swept over Roberts, and we lost over Roberts, and they beat Denver 3-1, and we also lost to Denver. So I'm thinking it's going to be a really tough game. How do you think the game will go?
The fact that we're so close in records right now, yeah, they did beat those teams pretty well, but it's different when you have a close rivalry in a sport such as, even in volleyball right now. And our records are pretty similar. I think, like you said last year, it went to 5. I think it'll go to 5 again this year, but unfortunately, it'll kind of end the same as last year. We're going to fall short 3-2.
That's your prediction? I'm thinking 3-1.
All right.
I don't think we're gonna because they seem like a tough team.
The thing is, though, is that against tougher teams, and I always like to go back to that Cal tournament where we dominated 3 teams who were, on paper so much better, and I see that potential with this team, and hopefully we can channel that to a good conference record this season.
Yeah, so moving on to golf, the men's team played at the Paintbrush Invitational in Denver, Colorado on Monday and Tuesday. They finished 4th out of 11 teams at the tournament, which is good. On Monday, 7 out of 11 teams competed in the event, but they did not finish the second rounds on Monday because of suspended due to darkness. Now, last year, I think we had we did a funny joke because last year, I don't know if it was golf. I think it was golf that it was inconsistent weather, so they couldn't do the whole tournament, and it was just kind of funny. But yeah.
So, you're also telling me they don't have lights on the golf course? Come on, they don't have enough light. They gotta have enough lights for 18 holes.
Yeah, I know. And then the Bison were one of the teams that finished the second round, which is good. And they were sitting at plus 25 points. Brock Winter, Nate Adams, and Jack Johnson tied for the spot for NDSU at plus 6 out of 36 holes, and they were tied for 36th place from just this first day.
The women, boy, I'm getting giddy about the women's team because they picked up their first win of the season on Tuesday at the Stampede of the Creek Indian Golf Course. They were first out of 7 teams. The Bison put together rounds of 304, 296, and 299 for a season-low 3-round score of 899, which is a very impressive stat because even in the at the Brookings tournament where they finished second, they had a 906, so they won up that with an 899. That is impressive. It is the lowest score by an NDSU team in a 54-hole tournament since 2019. Creighton came in second with a final score of 908, and Weber State rounded out the top 3 with 914. Now for the individual stats for the women's team, Leah Scarr led the way with a career-best third-place finish after carding rounds of 73, 74, and 76 for a 223 final score. Catherine Monty, she matched her career best as well with a 4th-place finish, and she got rounds of 77, 76, and 71 for her career low of 224. And then Maddie Herzog got her 5th career top 10 finish, coming in tied for 8th with a season best score of 227. And you notice it's a consistent thing there, season best, career best.
Yeah.
That is outstanding when you see that in every single player's stats there, that they all have career or season bests. As a team, NDSU collected on 10 birdies, 52 pars on the par 72 course. The women will return in action. Their next tournament is at the Pat Lassar Harbottle Invitational at Tacoma Country Club in Tacoma, Washington on October 11th and 12th.
Yeah, and like you said, you really had faith in your girls. You did say that they were going to do good, right?
Well, it was a second place out of 10 at the Brookings tournament. Then they had a really rough tournament at the Coeur d'Alene one, 15th out of 17 teams. And, I had faith. I had faith that was a bump in the road at Coeur d'Alene. It was just a rough tournament. They all have them. And, it seemed like every girl had their worst game in that one. And it's like, okay, everybody has a bad day. And we can definitely see what their prime looks like when they're playing at their best, a second and a first place. It's amazing to see.
Yep, and then the second day for the men's on their tournament, Adams finished the day at even par. Johnson finished with 73 points, and he tied for the 4th best round. Gavin Cronheit climbed 11 spots and tied for 27th overall. So the men's team finished the top 5. The men's team have been finishing top 5 in all 3 tournaments, which is good. So that's why I've been saying, like, the men's team is looking pretty good this year because they don't just they don't just have one person doing good. They have multiple, golfers that are good.
Multiple golfers doing good, and this is a story for both teams. Multiple golfers doing good, and the top golfers are all like underclass, people, like either sophomores or freshmen who have already worked their way up to be some of the best players on this team. It gives you a lot of hope for the future, but you also have some of those upperclassmen. You have a few seniors who are up there as well, teaching them how to compete at this level, and it is just great to see for both of these teams, and it gives you a lot of confidence looking forward for both of these teams.
Yep, so for the men's, their next tournament is October 24th at the Udu Kilmarnock tournament, and then for the girls,
yeah, the girls was at the Pat Lassar Harbottle Invitational, which I had already mentioned, in Tacoma, Washington, which will be on October 11th and 12th.
Yep, and then moving on to cross country, the men's team had the bye or the break. Their tournament is actually next Friday at the Bradley Pink Classic in Peoria, Illinois. Last tournament they came in 21st place, which is not that good, but I think we can do better. I think this tournament, we can get top 15 at least.
The women will also be playing at the, they had off this week, they have no tournament, but they will also be playing at the Bradley Pink Classic at Peoria, Illinois. I predict for them probably around the top 10, top 15 finish, kind of like the men, they haven't really, neither men's or women's has really shown any stats up in the top 5 as much as a team as a whole. So, I mean, it's a steady process. They're not at the top yet, but they're not at the bottom either, which is a good thing. You don't want to be down at the bottom. They're around the middle right now, and that's fine for early in the season. You got time to work your way up slowly, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So we got, a long season ahead of us, and hopefully we can just climb our way up eventually to get into the top 5.
Okay, so with all these teams, I know all these teams are not doing bad. They're doing pretty good. I feel like it's an even split. You know what I mean?
It definitely has been this past week. You talk about football won, soccer finally got their first win, volleyball had a 2-game win streak in the conference, which was a good sign of things to come. Unfortunately, lost to Denver, but Denver is a pretty decent team in volleyball. And then women's golf, that was the one I was most excited about. They got a first place, and men's and women's cross country, they seem to be, getting consistently better every time we see them and talk about them.
Okay, we got to do. We got to go back to football.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's homecoming week. We have to.
Yeah, homecoming week, man. It's going to be, it's going to be packed.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be packed. Homecoming,
My roommate has told me the student section is already sold out, which is something we don't see that often, unfortunately, but this time it's sold out a lot of days in advance. That tells you how excited these students are for this game.
I think it's going to be hype. Do you think we're going to, I think the coach is going to bring some tricks out of the bag.
Some trick plays? I mean, possibly. We've definitely been showing different things. We didn't run a lot of read options before last week, and it seems like for every team that we face, we run a different play, a different play style, different schemes, different plays that we hadn't tried before, and hopefully. I keep beating on the dead horse here, but hopefully we do start passing a little bit more. Yep. I would love to see some more passing.
Yep. That's what I was referring to, like he's going to bring some stuff out, finally some passing.
Yep.
But make sure you guys tune into that game. But thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bison Overtime. Catch us next Friday at the same time. Thank you for tuning in. Go Bison.